Hey guys, Stucky here. You ever wanted to try the best version of the Action Network app? Well, now is the perfect opportunity to do so because we have a special offer to celebrate the month of March and the NCAA tournament. You can get pro access for just $9.99 for the first month. That will give you access to things like Sean Kerner's player prop projections, which are invaluable, real-time money percentages, and our model's biggest edges, and much more. All you have to do is head over to actionnetwork.com/madness. That's actionnetwork.com/madness and get there before the deal expires. Cheers. All right, before we get out of here, we will talk a little Ivy. Jim Root and I, on one of our episodes that we'll record on Sunday, we will touch on the Ivy because we'll know a little bit more. We'll have odds out, or at least I haven't seen odds because we don't even know the order. We do know the teams. So Brown has locked in the 4 seed, and they had a 3 to force overtime against Harvard, and then 1 in overtime, and then that locked up the 4 seed for them, which they clinched the next day, actually. And then the top 3 seeds we've known for a while: Princeton, Yale, and Cornell. But we don't know the order yet because this season is not over, and it's just a 4-team tournament that'll take place at Columbia. I don't know why these conferences do this. Like, we just randomly, so the Ivy randomly rotates this, but like, so what if Columbia got the 4 seed, they get to host? Makes no sense. I also don't understand, like, why is High Point, I get it, they worked out this year, they're the 1 seed, why is High Point hosting their conference tournament? Like, what if High Point was the 5 seed, they get to host all the games? Hate it. Either do top, campus sites or a neutral site, or if you want to have it at one location, do it. I know that there's like logistics and all this, but it just feels unfair when a team that's like not the 1 seed, it's like a 5 seed, gets to host all the games. Anyway, that's my rant there. But this will take place in New York City. Columbia won't be here, so it'll be on a neutral court. Calabrese, I know you followed the Ivy all year round. Cornell, Princeton, excellent offenses to watch. Yale's a pretty good complete team as well. These teams dominated the league all year. Hard to see Brown winning 2 games here.
Yeah,
so I think it's a three-team race, which makes it hard to talk about from an odds perspective, because whoever gets that 1 seed, you get Brown
Huge
first.
advantage.
That's a major difference. So we won't go too deep here because we don't know the odds. We don't know who gets that, basically close to a bye compared to what the 2 and 3 will have to do. But we'll just talk a little bit about, which of these teams you might like, don't like, or maybe even fancy to make a run in the NCAA tournament. And this is the anti-Big Sky. The Ivy's a league that always just gets disrespected, like, oh, they don't have the athleticism, and this is, then see a team in the Sweet 16 randomly every year. This is a league that's had much more success over the past 2 decades than the Big Sky. But Calabrese, what are you seeing in the Ivy, which I know you follow pretty closely?
So Ken Pom really likes Princeton and Yale. So Princeton's 63rd in the country, 30th on the offensive ends. They play at a snail's pace. And I have plenty of nice things to say, but I'll start with this. According to shot quality, they're the 6th luckiest team in the entire country. So does that come back to bite them in this 2-game tournament run to try to, punch a ticket? We'll see. But in terms of their big 3, this is the best in the league by far. Lee, Pierce, Alaco. As a trio, they average over 46 a game, 18 rebounds. They can all shoot the ball really well from 3-point range. As a team, they're 20th in shooting efficiency overall. I love the fact that they shoot better than 80% from the line and never turn it over. When you can combine those 2 things, you get a lot of consistency and you win a lot of games that are close. Like, they just don't melt down. They're first in terms of turnovers in terms of the entire country. So that's how good they are protecting the basketball. But their schedule didn't really show me much in the non-conference. Yeah, they got to win right off the bat against Rutgers on a neutral floor and Trenton. But outside of that, they really weren't challenged. And for that reason, I think there's potential for a team like Yale or Cornell to steal this bid because they're a little bit different. So we'll start with Yale for starters. Their defense is better than Princeton's. They also play at a slow pace, but they're the 13th most consistent team in America, according to Haslametric. They're plus 11 in the kill shot margin this season, which is tops in the Ivy League. And James Jones, in my opinion, remains the best coach in the conference. He led the Bulldogs to 3 NCAA berths in the previous 8 seasons. It would have been 4 had it not been for COVID. They were the 1 seed that year in that Ivy League tournament. You get the best big in the Ivy and Mr. Double Double, Danny Wolf. And my only concern is that how he goes, so goes Yale. Like in their big wins against Cornell and Princeton, he played great. And then he turns around in the rematch and falls flat. I think he had 0 points against Cornell or Princeton. I can't remember which matchup it was. They were both on the road. They lose both of those games. So they absolutely need him. Just a little note, if they do make it to the tournament, if he gets into foul trouble, auto fade the Bulldogs. And then finally, Cornell, 101st in Ken Pom. They're top 25 in tempo in the entire country. So they are different than Princeton and Yale in terms of the pace that they want to play at. For that reason, they're up to 65th in Ken Pom offense. They're also a very consistent team, top 20 in terms of Haslametric. And then they play better against better teams. I've been beating this drum. Evan Maya has them 28th nationally. So they punch up and they do it really well. This is the third straight year Brian Earl has led the Big Red to the 4-team Ivy League tournament. So they're not going to be overwhelmed by the moment. And then they're also the most accurate shooting team in America inside the arc. They make close to 63% of their shots from 2-point range. When they push the pace and they convince other teams to do so, they force turnovers, over 13 turnovers per game, which helps because they're not a very good defense, just barely in the top 200. So that's kind of my overview on the 3. I would say, depending on the number, I'm leaning Yale. I like the coaching advantage. I like the big advantage they have on the low block. And I do think there's a little bit of an unknown factor about Princeton because they weren't challenged in the non-conference. But other than that, I think this is arguably the best 4-team tournament that the Ivy's put on in years. So I'm really excited to see it.
Yeah, I think Yale definitely has the best defense. And who has the best offense is an interesting question. Princeton, top 30 adjusted offensive efficiency. Cornell, top 65. You mentioned they shoot a ton of threes, but they're elite from 2. They take such good 2s. They push the pace, want to play a different style. But Yale had the best offense in league play. 3 really good offenses. Cornell, their style, just the way that they play, makes them a little funky. And you mentioned they play up. I think they split with both Yale and Princeton, and their losses were, I think, by a bucket apiece. So they were right there. I can't make a case for Brown. Greg, what are you seeing here in the Ivy among the top 3, unless you want to make a case for Brown?
No, I'm not going to. This is really personal preference, I think. Like, I could see any of these 3 teams winning this. Selfishly, it's not going to happen, but like, I wish this could be a 2-bid Ivy League because I would love to see Yale and Princeton in the NCAA tournament. I think both teams are capable of doing some damage. You mentioned it's stuck. Yale has been the best offense in conference play. They've also been the best defense in conference play. Before January 1st, Princeton was 55th overall in the country per Torvik. Yale was 102nd. Since January 1st, Yale 59th in the country, Princeton 101st. So it's flipped. Yale's been the better team since 2024 began. All 3 of these teams split with each other during the season. I think whoever gets the 1 seed here is going to catch a massive break just by process of elimination. But to me, I'm trying to focus in on Princeton and Yale because I think that's what my heart wants. Is I want to see the 2 teams I believe are a little bit ahead, if not a sizable amount ahead of Cornell in my mind. I want this to be the championship matchup. However we need to get there, I want to get there. And if we get there, I think I would pick Yale to win that game head-to-head. If you go through Yale and Princeton in their 2 games this season, Yale's loss did not include Matt Nolan. He wasn't active. He's back. He can really affect the game in a variety of ways. He can score. He can pass. He's sort of the quintessential glue guy type. Danny Wolf in that game, 0 for 8 from the floor with 0 points. You tell me they didn't have Nolan. Wolf was 0 for 8. That was just an 11-point game. Despite that, Wolf's a guy who can go for 20 any given time. And you mentioned it at the start, I think, Calabrese. According to Ken Pom, Princeton's ahead of Yale. A lot of the other advanced analytics sites actually have it flipped. Torvik has Yale 9 spots ahead of Princeton, 74th in the country to 83rd. Evan Mia, same thing, has Yale at 64th in the country. So I think from a gut perspective, we'd catch Yale at plus money if that's for the championship against Princeton. And the only thing that hangs over that makes me scared at firing at that is Xavier Lee is a bad man. He's an animal. He would be really fun to watch in the NCAA tournament. He's fun to watch every single game. If you go in his player profile on KenPom, you know, it has like the similar players based on all of the different ways they affect the game. The number one most similar player to Xavier Lee this season, Damian Lillard in 2010. It's a dangerous
Bringing it back to
name.
Weber State. That's just good mojo for our
Full
Weber
circle.
State play.
It all comes back to it, baby. But yeah, personal preference. I won't get mad at you either way here, boys.
Yeah, I'm rolling with Yale too, and I think that the way that you'll get value is that if Yale, most likely what's going to happen here is Princeton's going to be the one, because if Princeton wins, they control their own destiny, and Princeton plays, I believe, don't they play Brown? Am I wrong here? I think they play Brown. Can someone check that? I know that they have the tiebreaker.
They play Penn.
Princeton plays Penn and Yale plays Brown.
Yale has. Yes, Brown.
Yeah. So the most likely scenario is that Princeton and Yale are both going to win. And in that case, Princeton has the tiebreaker based on net. They're like 30 spots ahead right now. And that's what it would come down to. So Princeton's going to get the one, which is a big advantage. But from a price perspective, I think we'll actually get some value on Yale. And I would like Yale against Princeton. Yale, when they're going up against Cornell, they don't turn the ball over, so they're going to score at will against Cornell. They did lose to Cornell. One of the things that does scare me just a little bit is sometimes Yale has these like free throw woes that creep up. And against Cornell, they went 11 of 26 from the line. So like, and then Cornell barely won. So like if that happens again, yeah, they're probably going to lose, but you'd hope that they shoot better than 11 for 26 from the line. But I do think that Yale has the best defense. And I do agree with you, Greg. I think they're the best overall team at full strength in the Ivy. So in this scenario, and like I said, Jim and I will talk about this more on Sunday once we have the bracket and the odds. But in this area that's most likely to play out, Yale 2 seed, then they're gonna have the tougher road. But I think that's where you would get the most value back in Yale. We'll see where the numbers come out. But if it was Yale versus Princeton on a coin flip, I would like Yale in the final. It's finally March. So you know what that means. It's time to say top of the morning to the most famous St. Patrick's Day Shamrock Shavers, our new sponsor, Manscaped. Don't just chase rainbows this March. Make your own pot of gold and groom your little leprechaun with the leaders and below the kilt care. Clear your clover forest with Manscaped's Lawnmower 5.0 and join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. Head over to manscaped.com and use code BBOC for 20% off plus free shipping. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is your new lucky charm, and it's fully waterproof. So go ahead, shave by the misty moors, shave under a waterfall, shave while betting a second half total. The world is yours. Get 20% off and free shipping with code BBOC at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with code BBOC at manscaped.com. This St. Patrick's Day, make sure your hairy little leprechaun is luckier than ever with Manscaped.